Let's finish up the receipt. Before that, let me Ctrl+C copy the top of this table, reuse it, and then go to receipt. Go to cell C5, right-click or click this one, paste special value. We can use almost all the fields except this one, should be payment date. Keep invoice number but change withdrawal bank to deposit bank. For vendor name and vendor reference, change to customer name and customer reference. Let's highlight them all and separate them out. Select everything and then Ctrl F. Come here, replace simply vendor to replace as customer. Replace, done. In case you have multiple names, you can do this bulk replace. Invoice number should be the same as first settle and due before. Change payment amount to receipt amount. I emphasize a straight reference here because when we write apps later or whatever, we can reuse these fields or column names. For calculations, you know that when you get to that stage. Alright, select them all. Let me Control T. Remember, create table. My table has headers. Again, click somewhere in table design. Make it orange. For the description above, go back to payment. Just click somewhere, Control C, copy it, and back to receipt. Go above the reference, Control V. Let's polish a little bit. Control C, press Shift, highlight until covering all the columns, and Control V. Then it will return all the descriptions. Here I leave the reference untouched. For the invoice number, it's an input field. That's why Shift and down arrow, Control 1, fill with green. For the invoice number, let me go back to payment. Invoice number, Alt DL. Here you see select vendor invoice rate. Control C here. Go to payment. Change the first cell first. Right click, paste special validation. I'm not using vendor invoice. Instead, go to this cell called up validation. For select vendor invoice, let me change it. Seems like I did it before. Remove it. Let me see if I got select customer invoice. If not, I'll just make one. Nope. Let me go to customer invoice. Let me click here, cell 05, Control F3. Now, any name select. Customer invoice. Wipe out everything from refers to. Select invoice number. Press and down arrow. Select the whole column except the column head. Close it. Back to receipt. Inside receipt. Alt DL. Remove the source and press F3. Select customer invoice. OK. Here's the Dropbox. Oops, I forgot something. Some dash left out. I don't want that. Sorry about that. Let's go back to customer invoice. Come here. Seems like I have something similar in vendor invoice. We can copy it there. So here, Control C, copy that, escape, and then back to customer invoice. Come here, double click it, equal formula. We can't use it because F6 is the first customer. Alright, table 4 is not correct. We need to change that. We can rename table 4 because I didn't name it when I create. Select demo, which is table 8. In other words, this one should be table 8. Done. Oops, F6 is not correct. Should be E6. Sorry, it should be copying this formula. Let me redo it. Shift and Control C. Escape. OK. Copy that. Control C. And then Control F3. Select customer invoice. Let me delete it first. Then new. Select. customer invoice. Control V, okay. Okay. Then back to receipt. This cell here, Alt DL, there should be nothing. Press F3, select customer invoice. Okay. Now you have 1, 2, and then Control C, Shift and down arrow. Right click, Paste Special, Validation. There we go. Just like last part, I will create some. 3 should be enough. Just for demonstration. Alright. Payment date and deposit bank and receipt amount are all input fields. In case this cell has something, I will have 3 input cells. OOD. Okay, new rules, use a formula, click values, and select E6, and then F4 with their locking number 6. Greater than 0, then return green format, fill green. Okay, applies to the whole column. Payment here. Done. We still have some columns, so comma, same for the deposit bank. Apply formatting when invoice number is filled in. Okay, comma again. Payment, receipt amount. Select the whole column. Apply. Alright, for receipt, just put in some dates. We can copy here from payment, Alt DL, set the validation like this. Okay, Control C, and then go back to receipt here. Right click, Paste Special, Validation. In this case, I can't enter. Okay, Control C, Shift and down arrow again. Right click, Paste Special, Validation. In other words, it can help prevent entering garbage. Alright, for deposit bank, we can refer to payment. Go to withdrawal banks should be very much the same. ODL. Here you see select bank account, right? If my memory is right, it can be reused. Alright, go back to receipt, ODL. Allow list, type it, and then under source F3, select bank account. Seems like we have deposit bank and withdrawal bank already. Doesn't matter, select deposit bank, just pick one. Because both deposit and withdrawal bank come from the bank accounts list. Control C, Shift N, down arrow, select all, right click, Paste Special, Validation. So we can select bank here, just pick one. They can be changed later, okay? For customer name, let me see if we can reuse. Go back to payment, look for vendor name inside payment here. Let me grab the whole thing, Control C, and then receipt, customer name, double click it, Control V. Here I shouldn't see vendor, I should have customer, right? For index, here I changed the vendor name. Here you remember, we need to fill in the target column. We're not looking for table 4's vendor name. Remove it and look for a column inside income tab called customer name. Select the column. Yeah, table 8, we saw that before. Alright, for the match, we only need to change table 8 here. For invoice name, that's already been, invoice number already changed to purple column here. Enter and see if it returns customer. Here you see a mix of Chinese and English, right? Because the Chinese description is returned based on this one. If I select customer C here, when we go back, we'll see customer C. Okay, it's totally up to you to change it or not. For customer reference, simply copy from payment and change a little bit. Here you see. Control C, remember to copy only the first cell. Okay, back to receipt. Here, the first cell, Control V. Here, I should see number 3. The first one being 3 and the third one, this one should also display 3. Okay, so take out this table, change it to customer name. See, this blue one. And then change this one. Take out table 11 because it's not table 11. Customer name. Okay. All right, it's done. Very simple. All right. Now, invoice amount should be the same as the customer name. Control C, Control V. The same, using the same lookup formula. Okay. Here I'm not looking up for customer name. I'm looking for invoice amount instead. INV. Okay. Whereas the invoice amount is from customer invoice 112. For invoice number 1001, the invoice amount is $112. Invoice 1002 is $224. Go back to receipt. Here you see invoice 1001 with amount 112. You might ask why we have two invoice 1001 to $112. Let me show you here how an invoice be settled twice. Okay, it can be done in installments, right? Control C, go to the first settlement, which is the amount received on the invoice date. Ignore the match part. We only need to change the invoice amount to first settle. Oops, nothing under first settle. That means no money received on invoice date. Let me see if I'm right. Customer invoice. Yep, we are right. Nothing's received. Just enter some numbers. $10. Pretend that we've collect $10. Invoice 1001, this one. Go back to receipt. Here you see the $10. Let me calculate the balance due before. It's very much the same as the payment. We can copy that from payment. Let's get there. Balance due before is the amount collected on that day. That is the balance due before I get paid this time. Balance due, copy that, Control C, back to payment. The first cell under balance due, Control V. Here you see extra rows because we just copied from payment. Here let me take out table 11. Here you see invoice amount 112 in blue. Take out table 11 and minus the first settlement, this one in red, and minus some if. Here you see column E5, E6, which is also the invoice number column. This column can be scrolled down. Okay, take out table 11. Invoice number, criteria is invoice number, which is this one. L6, the green column. When you scroll down, it becomes L6, L7. Okay, add back. Let me take out table 11 first. Instead of payment amount, it should be receipt amount, which is also in green. Save it first. All right. Let me see. Invoice 1001. It has invoice amount 112 where we've paid $10 on the invoice date. In other words, before we get paid, now the balance should be $102, right? All right. Let's do balance due after first. Indeed, we can copy it straight from payment. Go to first cell, Control C, go back to receipt. Here, the first cell, Control V, just like before, change this one. Take out table 11, invoice balance due, which is the blue one here. Minus, take out table 11, receipt amount, which is the red one. Okay, let's take a look at invoice number 1001. Let's check it here and you can Alt DL to add validation. I'm not adding it now because you can do that yourself here. I just showed you the calculation. Let's check it. Pretend that I've paid $100, then $2 under balance due after. On April 30th, we've paid for this invoice again. We should have $2 before we get paid. If I get paid for $2, the balance due after is now 0. Of course, if you enter garbage here, you won't get the result. That's why you need validation here. That's the end of the bookkeeping part. Starting from the next video, I'll be doing adjusting entries, which is supposed to be done by accountants. It's not necessary for the end users to know. It's up to you whether you need it. Okay, bookkeeping part closed. Ciao.